You spent 12 years in school. You learned how to solve for X. You memorized the names of all 50 state capitals. You can probably still tell me that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. But not one teacher, not one class, not one textbook ever sat you down and said, here is how money actually works. And that silence, that deliberate, systematic silence, has cost you probably more than you even realize right now. Here is a number that should genuinely scare you. According to a 2023 TIAA Institute study, only 52% of Americans can correctly answer basic financial literacy questions. That means roughly half the people making financial decisions every single day about mortgages, retirement, debt, investing, are doing it without actually understanding what they are doing. And it is not their fault. It is a system that failed them completely. Banks, credit card companies, and lenders profit enormously from your confusion. The less you understand, the more they make. Your financial ignorance is literally someone else's business model. So today we are fixing that. This video is going to cover everything your school skipped and your bank hopes you never figure out. We are talking about how to actually know where you stand financially right now, how to build a budget that does not make you miserable, why your emergency fund could be the single most important financial decision you make this year, how to destroy debt systematically, how to start investing even if you have almost nothing, how to think about buying a home versus renting, how to approach cars without torpedoing your future, and how to make sure you actually have money when you are old. This is the financial education you are owed, so take pen and paper, and I recommend you to listen to this video every night when you're falling asleep. Trust me, do it for 21 days and everything will change in your financial life. Let us get into it. Section 1. You don't know where you stand. Here is the uncomfortable truth that most financial advice videos skip right over. You cannot build a plan if you do not know your starting point. This sounds completely obvious, but most people genuinely have no clear picture of their financial reality. They have a vague sense of whether they feel broke or okay. They know roughly what their paycheck looks like, but they have never actually sat down, done the full math, and gotten a clear picture of exactly where they are. That is the equivalent of trying to drive to a city you have never been to, with no GPS, no map, and no idea which direction you are even facing. You might get lucky. You probably will not. Your financial starting point is defined by 3 specific numbers. Get these 3 numbers, and you will understand your situation more clearly than most people ever will in their entire lives. Write them down. Do this exercise before you do anything else this video tells you to do. The first number is your net worth. This is everything you own, minus everything you owe. On the own side, the balance in your checking accounts, savings accounts, retirement accounts, the current market value of your car, the current market value of your home if you own one, any investment accounts, any other valuables with real monetary value. On the OWE side, all credit card balances, student loans, car loans, mortgage balance, personal loans, money borrowed from family members. Subtract what you owe from what you own. That number, whether it is positive or negative, is your net worth right now. Here is some context to help you feel less alone about whatever that number turns out to be. According to the Federal Reserve's 2022 survey of consumer finances, the median net worth for households under 35 years old is $39,000. For households aged 35 to 44, the median is $135,000. For 45 to 54, it is $247,000. So if your number is lower than you hoped, you are not behind in some shameful, unusual way. You are dealing with the same financial reality that most people are navigating. But knowing your exact number means you can actually start changing it in a specific, directed way, rather than just feeling vaguely anxious about money without doing anything concrete. The second number is your monthly cash flow. This is your total take-home income every month, minus every single dollar you spend in that same month. Income is usually the easy side, your paycheck after taxes, any freelance or side income, any regular money coming in from other sources. The expenses side is where almost everybody gets a shock when they actually sit down and add it all up honestly. Your rent or mortgage payment, car insurance, health insurance if you pay it separately, utilities, phone bill, groceries, eating out, subscriptions. And there are almost certainly more of these than you think. because subscription services are specifically designed to be easy to forget about while they keep quietly charging you. Entertainment, personal care, random online purchases that seemed reasonable at the time. That gym membership you are still paying for even though you have not gone in 4 months. Add all of it up honestly and completely. Then subtract your total expenses from your total income. If the answer is positive, you have money left over each month. That leftover amount is your raw building material for everything. Your emergency fund, your debt payments, your investments, your future. Even a small positive number is something to work with. If the answer is 0, you are treading water, making no forward progress, but also not going backward. If the answer is negative, you are slowly going under financially, and you are probably wondering why your credit card balance keeps creeping upward, even though you do not feel like you are spending that much. Now you know why, and if you want that number to increase, remember that YouTube is the golden opportunity of this decade, and it's blowing up every small channel that does things right, as I teach you in my free community with the link below. Here is why the cash flow number matters so much in practical terms. Let us say your monthly surplus is only $200. That does not sound impressive. But $200 per month invested at an average 8% annual return, which is below the long-term historical average of the US stock market, over 30 years becomes more than $298,000. The math on small consistent amounts over long periods of time is genuinely shocking once you actually run the numbers. But you can only work with what you actually know. Most people are guessing at their cash flow and wondering why they feel permanently stuck. Stop guessing. The third number is your financial runway. This is how long you could survive financially if your income disappeared tomorrow, right now, with absolutely no warning. Take your total liquid savings, money in checking and savings accounts that you can access quickly without penalties, and divide that number by your monthly expenses. If you have $6,000 in accessible savings and you spend $3,000 per month, your runway is 2 months. This number tells you exactly how vulnerable you are to the unpredictable things life throws at everyone eventually. A Federal Reserve survey found that 37% of American adults could not cover an unexpected $400 expense without borrowing money or selling something. $400. That is a car repair. That is an emergency dental visit. That is a broken phone, or a plumbing issue, or a sudden medical copay. If any of those things would currently derail your entire financial life, your runway is dangerously, urgently short, and becoming your top priority needs to happen now. Not eventually, not someday, right now. Get these 3 numbers. Write them down somewhere you will actually see them. They are your financial GPS coordinates. Everything that comes next in this video and in your financial life starts with knowing them clearly. You cannot navigate toward a better destination from a starting point you cannot see. Section 2. Setting goals that actually mean something. Now that you know where you are, you need to get clear on where you are going. And this is another place where most people get it completely wrong. They set financial goals that are either so vague, they are practically useless. Things like, I want to save more money, or I want to be better with money, or completely disconnected from what they actually want their life to look like in a real, tangible way that they could describe to someone else. Real financial goals start with your life goals, not dollar amounts, not account balances. Your actual life. What do you want your daily existence to feel like in 5 years, in 10? Do you want the peace of mind that comes from knowing one unexpected bill will not ruin your entire month? Do you want the freedom to leave a job you hate without immediate financial panic? Do you want to own a home? Travel to places you have been saying you will visit someday? Start a business? Retire at 55 instead of 70? Have children without spending half your mental energy worrying about money every day? Stop and think about this seriously. Not what you think you should want. What you actually want your life to look like. Those life goals have specific financial requirements attached to them. And once you know what the life you actually want requires, you can reverse engineer the numbers behind it. If you want job flexibility and the ability to walk away from situations that are not right for you, you need a bigger emergency fund and lower fixed monthly expenses so your financial situation does not hold you hostage. If you want to buy a home, you need a down payment, a decent credit score, and income stable enough to qualify for a mortgage without your debt-to-income ratio working against you. If you want early retirement, you need a serious and sustained investing strategy, probably a lower-cost lifestyle than most people your age are living, and a clear understanding of exactly how much money you need invested to live off the returns. The research on goal setting is consistent and clear. Specific, time-bound goals with measurable outcomes are dramatically more likely to be achieved than vague intentions. A well-cited study published in the British Journal of Health Psychology found that people who wrote down not just their goal, but specifically what they would do, when and where, what researchers call implementation intentions, were significantly more likely to actually follow through on the behaviour. The same principle applies directly and powerfully to financial goals. So instead of "I want to pay off my debt," try this specific version. I want to pay off my $8,500 credit card balance within 14 months by paying $650 per month, which I will do by setting up an automatic payment on the first of every month. Instead of "I want to save more," try "I want to have a $5,000 emergency fund within 10 months by automatically transferring $500 to a dedicated high-yield savings account every payday." See how much more actionable the second version of each goal is? You know exactly what to do every month. You know when you will achieve it. You can track your progress and feel the momentum building over time. You also want goals set at different time horizons simultaneously, because progress compounds across them. Short-term goals are things achievable in the next 12 months, like building a starter emergency fund or paying off a specific credit card. Medium-term goals are 2 to 5 years out, like saving a home down payment or eliminating all consumer debt. Long-term goals are a decade or more away, like retirement, financial independence, or reaching a specific investment milestone. The reason you want all three types active at the same time is that progress on one feeds motivation and momentum for the others. And as you accomplish the shorter ones, you redirect that freed up money toward the bigger ones. It compounds. Not just the money, the psychological momentum behind it. One more critical thing about goal setting that most people skip entirely: be brutally honest about your priorities, because you almost certainly cannot pursue everything at the exact same time on a normal income. If your monthly surplus is $400 and you are simultaneously trying to build an emergency fund, aggressively pay off student loans, save for a home down payment, max out retirement accounts, and fund a vacation this summer, the math simply does not work. One of those things will get no meaningful traction, probably several of them. The people who make the most consistent and meaningful financial progress are the ones who sequence intelligently, who say, right now, in this specific phase of my life, this is the one priority. When it is handled, I move to the next thing. Focused consistency beats scattered effort every single time, without exception. Section 3. Budgeting. The word that makes people flinch. Let us talk about budgeting. And I want to acknowledge something up front. The word itself makes most people uncomfortable. It sounds like restriction. It sounds like punishment. It sounds like someone is about to take away everything you enjoy and replace it with a spreadsheet and a sad salad. That is not what a good budget is, and that framing is a big part of why so many people fail at this. A good budget is a plan you made in advance for how to spend your own money, based on your own priorities and values. That is the whole thing. It is permission. You are giving yourself explicit, intentional permission to spend on things you genuinely value, while making sure the important stuff, your goals, your savings, your debt payments, gets handled first and automatically before you have a chance to accidentally spend that money on something else. The reason most budgets fail is not that people lack discipline or willpower. Research consistently shows that self-control as a strategy for financial behavior change is far less effective than system design. Most budgets fail because they are built on fantasy, too strict, too complicated, and completely disconnected from how real human beings actually behave when they are tired, stressed, bored, or social. Most budgets also fail to account for the irregular expenses that hit throughout the year. The car registration in April, the dentist visit in June, the holiday gifts in December, the new tyres in September. And then when one of those inevitable costs arrives, the budget appears to break. The person feels like they have failed and cannot stick to a plan, and they abandon the whole exercise. The budget was not the problem. The design of the budget was the problem. The first approach that works for a lot of people is the 50-30-20 rule. The the simplest framework available. Take your after-tax monthly income and split it 3 ways. 50% goes to needs: rent or mortgage, food, utilities, transportation, minimum debt payments, insurance. These are the things you genuinely cannot avoid paying without major life disruption. 30% goes to wants: eating out, entertainment, hobbies, shopping, subscriptions you actively choose to keep, anything that enriches your life but is not strictly required for survival. 20% goes to your financial future: savings, investments, and any debt repayment above the minimum payments. This works extremely well for people who do not want to track every individual spending category with precision and just need a clear, easy to evaluate overall structure. If your after-tax income is $4,000 per month, you are aiming for roughly $2,000 in needs, $1,200 in wants, and $800 toward your future. The second approach is zero-based budgeting, which gives you maximum control. Every single dollar of your monthly income gets assigned a specific job before the month begins. Income minus all planned expenses, savings contributions, and debt payments equals 0. You are not spending everything. Some of those dollars are assigned to savings and investments, but nothing is floating around unaccounted for, which is exactly where most financial leakage happens. This approach requires more initial setup and ongoing attention, but it gives you complete visibility over where every single dollar is going. Apps like YNAB, which stands for You Need a Budget, are specifically built around this method and have helped enormous numbers of people who felt their money was mysteriously disappearing every month. The third approach is the cash envelope method, which sounds old-fashioned, but works extremely well for specific problems. You take out physical cash for discretionary spending categories where you tend to overspend: groceries, dining out, entertainment, personal spending, and put the designated monthly amount into a labelled physical envelope at the start of each month. When the envelope for that category is empty, you are done spending in that category until next month. No exceptions. Research on the psychology of payment consistently shows that paying in physical cash causes people to be more deliberate and to spend measurably less compared to card payments. There is something about handing over actual bills that makes a purchase feel real and significant in a way that tapping a phone simply does not. If you struggle with overspending in specific areas, this method is remarkably effective at creating a natural, unavoidable stop. Regardless of which approach you choose, there are a few things your budget absolutely must include. First, irregular expenses. Sit down and estimate your total annual costs for things like car insurance, holiday gifts, annual subscriptions, home or car maintenance and repairs, medical expenses you expect, and any other costs that do not hit on a monthly schedule. Add those up and divide by 12. Put that exact monthly amount into a separate savings account labelled specifically for irregular expenses automatically every month. When the car registration comes due or the dentist bill arrives, the money is already sitting there. This single habit eliminates one of the most common reasons otherwise decent budgets fall apart. Second, a genuine category for fun, enjoyment, and personal spending. A budget with zero room for anything enjoyable is a budget that will not survive contact with real human life. Build in money for whatever brings you actual joy. Be intentional about it rather than eliminating it entirely. Third, a small buffer, maybe $50 to $100 per month, for things that are slightly above normal but do not rise to the level of a true emergency. Higher utility bill than expected, a minor household item that needs replacing, small surprises that should not require an emergency fund withdrawal. Here is the most important thing I can tell you about the budgeting process. The first budget you create will be wrong. The numbers will be off. You will have forgotten categories. You will have underestimated some things and overestimated others. That is completely fine and completely expected. The point of the first budget is not accuracy. The point is to start paying deliberate attention to where your money goes. After one real month of tracking, you will know dramatically more about your actual spending patterns compared to what you assumed. After 3 months, you will have genuine data to work with and can adjust based on reality rather than guesses. That is when budgeting stops feeling like a chore and starts actually changing your financial life. Be patient with the early imperfection. Section 4. Emergency funds. Nobody builds this until it's too late. If there is one single financial move that will have the biggest immediate impact on your stress levels and your long-term financial stability, it is building an emergency fund. Not investing in the stock market. Not aggressively paying off debt first. An emergency fund sitting in a separate account. Available when life inevitably goes sideways. Because without one, every unexpected expense that life throws at you, and life will throw them at you regularly, and without warning, goes onto a credit card, turns into a high-interest personal loan, or creates real tension with a family member or friend who lends you money. And high-interest debt taken on during a moment of emergency is exactly how people get trapped in financial quicksand for years at a time. What starts as a temporary problem becomes a permanent financial burden with interest charges attached. Traditional financial advice says 3 to 6 months of living expenses is the target, and that is absolutely the right long-term goal. But if you are currently living paycheck to paycheck, 6 months of expenses might feel so impossibly distant that the mountain looks too big to even start climbing. So let us reframe the immediate goal entirely. Start with $1,000. That is your only target right now. Not 3 months, not 6 months. $1,000 in a separate account that you do not touch for anything except a genuine emergency. That small fund will handle the vast majority of common minor emergencies that derail people's finances. A car repair, a medical copay, a dental emergency, a broken essential appliance. It keeps those things from becoming revolving credit card debt at 22% interest. Once you have $1,000, your next target is 1 full month of expenses, then 2 months, then 3. Build it in stages, where each stage is genuinely achievable because it actually is. Where you keep this money matters significantly more than most people realise, and this is a detail that often gets skipped. It should not be in your regular checking account, because it will get spent on things that are not true emergencies. You will rationalise it in the moment, because humans are extraordinarily good at convincing themselves that a purchase is urgent or necessary when it is not. It should not be invested in the stock market, because markets decline at exactly the wrong moments in history. And you cannot afford to open your account and find that your emergency fund is down 35% precisely when you need the money most. It should be in a high-yield savings account at an online bank, separate from your everyday banking, easy to access when genuinely needed, but not so instantly accessible that it blends into your spending money. As of 2024, many of the best high-yield savings accounts were offering annual percentage yields between 4.5% and 5.5%. Online banks like Ali, Marcus by Goldman Sachs, SoFi and others regularly offer rates 10 to 20 times higher than what traditional brick-and-mortar banks pay on savings. There is no logical reason whatsoever to leave your emergency fund sitting in an account earning 0.01% per year, when significantly better options are freely available and take 15 minutes to set up. How do you build an emergency fund when your monthly surplus feels tiny or nearly non-existent? You automate it completely and make it invisible in your daily financial life. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your high-yield savings account on every single payday, before you have any opportunity to see that money and decide to spend it on something else. Even $25 per transfer, even $50. The specific amount matters far less than the habit of consistent automation. Treat it exactly like a utility bill that gets paid automatically without any conscious decision from you on any given day. The discipline of saving should not depend on you feeling particularly motivated or financially confident on a given Thursday morning. It should just happen in the background. The right size for your emergency fund should reflect your specific life situation and risk profile, not a one-size-fits-all rule designed for someone else's circumstances. If you are self-employed or freelance with irregular and unpredictable income, you probably need 6 months or more, because your income itself is a source of risk that a salaried employee does not have. If you have dependents, children, elderly parents, anyone whose well-being depends financially on you, you need a larger cushion, because the consequences of financial failure affect more people and are harder to reverse. If you have ongoing health issues that could generate unexpected large expenses, lean significantly toward a bigger fund. If you have a very stable government or union position with strong job security and excellent benefits and few dependents, 3 months might genuinely be adequate for your specific situation. Customize the target to your actual reality and actual risk level, not the average person's reality. One thing people consistently miss about emergency funds: they are not a one-time achievement you unlock and then move past. They are a permanent and ongoing feature of a healthy financial life that requires maintenance and replenishment. When you dip into the fund, and eventually you absolutely will, because genuine emergencies do happen to everyone, and the fund is working exactly as designed when you use it, you rebuild it back to the target level before you move on to advancing other financial goals. Every time, without exception, your emergency fund is the financial equivalent of your immune system. You do not stop maintaining your immune system just because you have been healthy for the past 2 years. Section 5. Debt. The math is brutal. The way out is clear. Let us talk about debt. Because if you are carrying high-interest debt while simultaneously trying to build wealth, you are essentially trying to fill a bathtub with the drain wide open. You can pour water in as fast as you want. It is going down the drain faster than you can add it. The math on debt is genuinely savage, and most people never stare directly at it because the numbers are too uncomfortable to face clearly. We're going to face them together right now. Here is a simple example using real numbers that anyone can verify. You have $5,000 in credit card debt at a 22% annual interest rate. That is close to the actual average credit card interest rate in the United States as of 2024, according to data from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. If you make only the minimum payment each month, which is what the credit card company designs the system to encourage, it will take you approximately 17 years to fully pay off that balance. And by the time you do, you will have paid back more than 3 times the original amount you borrowed. That $5,000 becomes over $16,000 in total payments across those 17 years. 3 times what you borrowed, paid over nearly 2 decades. And during every one of those 17 years, every dollar going toward interest is a dollar that is not building your wealth, not going into investments, not working for your future. Before we discuss strategy, it is important to be clear that not all debt is equivalent and should not be treated identically. There is debt that can be part of a reasonable long-term financial strategy. A fixed-rate mortgage at a historically reasonable interest rate on a property in a market that has historically appreciated can be part of building wealth over time, partly because real estate tends to increase in value, and partly because you are building equity rather than paying someone else's mortgage through rent. Student loans that funded education, that genuinely and verifiably increased your earning capacity above what you would have earned without. The degree can be financially justified, though you need to actually run the numbers and verify the math rather than simply assuming the degree was worth whatever it cost, because that assumption is not always correct, and the difference in outcomes can be substantial. Then there is debt that is simply and purely destructive to your financial life. High-interest credit card debt used to fund consumption. Payday loans which can carry annualized interest rates above 300%. That is not a typo, 300% or more, and which are specifically designed to trap borrowers in cycles of repeated borrowing. Buy now, pay later arrangements that normalize spending money you do not yet have on things you do not truly need. Car loans stretched to 6 or 7 years on vehicles that depreciate immediately and continuously. Personal loans taken out to fund lifestyle rather than investment. This category of debt quietly and consistently eats your financial future while you are busy living your present. Eliminating it is not just a good idea. It should be among your highest financial priorities, second only to ensuring you have the basic emergency protection and employer matching we already discussed. So how do you actually attack and systematically eliminate debt? There are 2 proven strategic approaches, and both of them work in practice. The question is, which one works for you specifically, based on how you are actually wired psychologically? Because this matters enormously for whether you will sustain the plan long enough for it to succeed. The debt avalanche method targets your highest interest rate balance first, regardless of how large or small that balance is. You make the minimum required payment on every other debt. All of them, every month without fail. And every single dollar of extra money beyond those minimums goes at the debt with the highest interest rate. When that one is fully paid off, You take the total monthly amount you were paying on it, the minimum plus all your extra, and you redirect the entire thing to the debt, the next highest interest rate. You keep rolling that growing payment forward. Mathematically, this approach is optimal. It minimizes the total interest you pay across all your debts over the entire payoff period. The savings compared to other approaches can be thousands of dollars depending on your balances and interest rates. The debt snowball method, made widely popular by Dave Ramsey, takes a different approach. It targets your smallest balance first, completely regardless of its interest rate. You make minimum payments on every other debt and attack the smallest balance with every extra dollar you have. Because the balance is small, it gets paid off relatively quickly, sometimes in just a few months. When it is gone, you take that freed up payment and roll it entirely into the minimum payment on the next smallest balance, gradually building a larger and larger payment as debts get eliminated one by one. Research in behavioral economics, including studies examining what makes debt repayment plans sustainable over time, found that the psychological satisfaction of completely eliminating individual debts provides a sense of completion and visible progress that significantly boosts ongoing motivation. For people who have tried and failed to stick with debt repayment in the past, the snowball often works better in practice, precisely because it generates faster and more frequent emotional wins. The honest answer is, use whichever method you will actually sustain for as long as the payoff takes. If that is 6 months, great. If it is 3 years, you need to still be doing it in month 30. The most mathematically optimal debt repayment strategy in the world is completely worthless if you quit after 2 months, because you feel like you are making no progress. Real consistency over sufficient time beats theoretical optimality applied inconsistently every single time in the real world. Student loans deserve their own separate conversation because they are genuinely more complicated than other forms of debt and have unique options most people do not know about. Federal student loans offer income-driven repayment plans that cap your required monthly payment as a percentage of your discretionary income. For some borrowers, these plans can reduce payments to as low as 5 to 10% of income. Federal loans also offer public service loan forgiveness for people who work in qualifying public sector or non-profit employment and make 120 qualifying payments over 10 years, after which the remaining balance is forgiven. Federal loans come with protections like deferment and forbearance during genuine periods of financial hardship. Private student loans offer essentially none of these protections. They are closer to any other private loan. If you have federal loans and are struggling to make payments, do not assume your only options are to pay in full or suffer silently. Call your loan servicer directly and specifically ask about all available income-driven repayment plan options. You might qualify for a dramatically different and more manageable monthly payment. But to have more possibilities to pay that, remember that YouTube is the golden opportunity of this decade. And if you want to know how to do it, I can help you in my free community with the link below. Be very careful about refinancing federal student loans with a private lender, even if the advertised interest rate is somewhat lower. When you refinance federal loans privately, you permanently and irrevocably give up all federal protections and repayment flexibility, including the possibility of income-driven plans and any forgiveness programs. That loss of protection is usually not worth a marginally lower rate, especially because you cannot predict what financial circumstances you might face over a 10 or 20-year repayment period. Car debt is the other major category that deserves direct attention. The average new car payment in the United States was approximately $735 per month as of 2024, according to data from Experian Auto. The average loan term has stretched to nearly 68 months, almost 6 years. Section 6. Investing. The thing that actually builds wealth. Now we get to the part that most people either completely ignore because it feels too abstract or intimidating, or dramatically overthink because they believe investing requires expertise, constant attention, and brilliant decision-making. Both of those reactions are wrong. Investing is not gambling, it is not exclusively for wealthy people, and it does not require you to understand complex financial instruments. It requires understanding a few core concepts and then applying them with patience over a long time horizon. Let us start with the most important concept in all of personal finance: compound growth. This is the mechanism by which money multiplies itself over time in a way that accelerates rather than staying linear. When you invest money and earn a return, you now have a larger amount. When that larger amount earns a return the following year, you have an even larger amount. Then that even larger amount earns a return the year after that. The growth is exponential, meaning it accelerates over time rather than staying constant. Slow and almost imperceptible at first, then increasingly dramatic and powerful as the base amount grows larger and the years accumulate. Here is the number that should make you stop what you are doing and actually think carefully for a moment. If you invest $300 per month starting at age 22 and earn an average annual return of 8%, which is actually below the long-term historical average annual return of the US stock market. By age 62, you will have approximately $1 million. Now here is the comparison that should permanently change how you think about the relationship between time and money. If you wait until age 32 to start that exact same $300 monthly investment at the exact same 8% average return, by age 62, you will have approximately $440,000. Same monthly contribution amount, same rate of return, same end date. But a 10-year delay cost you over $560,000, not because you invested dramatically less total money over the period. The difference in total contributions is only $36,000 across 10 years, but because those early years of compounding are so disproportionately powerful that nothing you do later can compensate for losing them. This is why time is not just one factor among many in investing. Time is the most important factor of all. More important than the specific investments you choose, more important than any market timing strategy, more important than having a large lump sum to begin with. Starting early and being consistent produces the most dramatic long-term results, and nothing in investing substitutes for it. This leads directly to the second most important concept. Just start, regardless of how small the amount feels. Imperfect and early consistently beats perfect, and delayed in virtually every scenario you can model. The most carefully optimized investment portfolio started at 35 will almost never produce a better, ultimate outcome than a simple, boring portfolio started at 22 with whatever you could afford at the time. Stop waiting until you feel financially ready. Stop waiting until you have more money to work with. Start right now with whatever you have, even if that is $25 per month, and increase the amount as your income grows. So where should you actually invest? For most ordinary people, especially those who are not investment professionals and do not want to dedicate significant time to researching individual companies, the answer is genuinely and unapologetically boring. Low-cost index funds that track broad market indices. An index fund is a fund that simply owns all the stocks included in a particular market index, weighted by their relative sizes. The most well-known example is the S&P 500, an index representing the 500 largest publicly traded companies in the United States. An S&P 500 index fund owns proportional pieces of Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, JP Morgan Chase, Johnson & Johnson, Berkshire Hathaway, and approximately 495 other major companies. When you buy shares of that fund, you own a tiny slice of the broad American large company economy. When those companies collectively grow more valuable over time, as they have historically over every multi-decade period on record, your investment grows proportionally with them. When one or two individual companies struggle or even fail, the impact on your portfolio is minimal because those companies represent only a small fraction of the hundreds you own. The S&P 500 has returned an average of approximately 10.5% per year over the past 50 years. That average includes and survives every crash, recession, financial crisis, pandemic, war, and period of political uncertainty in that entire half-century. Not every individual year was positive. Some years the index fell dramatically, and we will address that shortly. But over every 20-year period in the market's history, the US stock market has been positive. Patient long-term investors have been consistently rewarded. Here is the thing that should surprise you. Most professional fund managers, people with advanced finance degrees, massive research teams, access to information, and analytical tools that you and I do not have, and financial incentives to perform well, fail to consistently beat a simple S&P 500 index fund after accounting for the fees they charge. The Standard & Poor's SPIVA report published annually consistently shows that the vast majority of actively managed funds underperform their benchmark index over 10-year and 15-year time periods. The percentage of active managers who beat their benchmark drops further the longer the time horizon you measure. This is not because these managers are incompetent. It is because markets are highly competitive and information gets priced in rapidly, making consistent outperformance extraordinarily difficult to sustain. The practical implication for you is that trying to find the fund manager who will beat the market is likely a losing game. Own the market instead, at the lowest possible cost. The cost you pay to invest, the expense ratio, which is the annual fee charged as a percentage of your invested assets, matters enormously over long time horizons because fees compound just like returns do. Vanguard, Fidelity, and Charles Schwab all offer excellent total market, or S&P, 500 index funds, with expense ratios of 0.03% to 0.10% annually. On $10,000 invested, you pay $3 to $10 per year in fees. Compare that to actively managed mutual funds that commonly charge 0.75% to 1.5% annually. On that same $10,000, that is $75 to $150 per year. The difference looks small in any single year, but compounded over 30 years, the lower fee option produces dramatically more wealth for you. Every dollar that goes to fees is a dollar that is not compounding in your account. Now let us talk about where to hold your investments, because the account type you use can have a massive impact on how much of your investment gains you actually get to keep after taxes are accounted for. If your employer offers a 401k, 403b, or similar workplace retirement plan that includes employer matching contributions, that account is your first stop. Before anything else, employer matching is literally free money with an immediate guaranteed return before any investment growth occurs. If your employer matches 50 cents for every dollar you contribute up to 6% of your salary, and you are not contributing at least 6%, you are walking past free money on the ground every single pay period. There is no investment anywhere on earth that provides an immediate 50% return on the dollars contributed before any market returns are even added on top. Capture the full employer match first. Always. No exceptions. After you are capturing the full employer match, a Roth IRA is one of the most powerful wealth-building tools available to most young people. A Roth IRA is funded with after-tax money, meaning you pay ordinary income taxes on the money before contributing it. The significant trade-off you receive in exchange is that all the growth inside the account over the following decades, and all withdrawals you make in retirement, are completely tax-free. Not tax-deferred, tax-free. For most young people who are currently in lower income tax brackets and expect their income, and therefore their tax rate, to be higher later in their careers, a Roth IRA is an extraordinary deal. As of 2024, you can contribute up to $7,000 per year if you are under 50, $7,000 per year starting at 25, growing at 8% annually, becomes approximately $2 million by age 65. And every dollar of that $2 million comes out in retirement completely free of federal income tax. That tax advantage, compounded over 40 years, is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. A traditional IRA is the alternative to the Roth. Contributions may be tax deductible in the year you make them, meaning you reduce your current taxable income and get an immediate tax benefit. But you pay ordinary income taxes on withdrawals in retirement. Whether the traditional or Roth version is better for your specific situation depends primarily on whether you expect to be in a higher or lower tax bracket when you retire, compared to your current bracket. For most young people with growing earning potential ahead of them, the Roth is the smarter, long-term bet. When in doubt and your income allows you to contribute, the Roth is generally the safer and more flexible choice. Standard taxable brokerage accounts, investment accounts without special tax advantages, become your next option once you have maximized contributions to your tax-advantaged accounts, or for investment goals that will occur before you reach traditional retirement age. These accounts have no contribution limits, no restrictions on when you can withdraw and complete, flexibility to use the money whenever you want for any purpose whatsoever. They are excellent for medium to long-term goals, like funding a home purchase in 10 years, reaching financial independence well before age 65, or building additional investment wealth beyond your retirement account limits. What should you actually put inside all these accounts? Keep it simple. A total US stock market index fund gives you exposure to essentially every publicly traded company in the United States, large, medium, and small companies alike. Adding an international, developed market stock index fund alongside it gives you exposure to large companies in Europe, Japan, Australia, and other developed economies, reducing your total dependence on the American economy alone. A bond index fund adds stability and reduces the volatility of your overall portfolio during market downturns, though young investors with 30 or more years of investment horizon ahead of them can reasonably keep their bond allocations small, perhaps 10% or even less, and hold a larger proportion in stocks for the higher long-term growth potential that stocks historically provide. If you want to keep things as simple as possible, a single target date retirement fund designed for someone planning to retire around your expected retirement year automatically handles all the asset allocation and rebalancing for you as time passes. You pick one fund, contribute to it consistently, and let it adjust everything automatically as you move through life. That is a perfectly complete and legitimate investment strategy that will serve the vast majority of investors well. Now, here is something that is genuinely uncomfortable to talk about, but is arguably the single most important thing to understand about real-world investing. The factor that destroys investment returns more than any other, more than market crashes, more than fees, more than choosing slightly suboptimal funds, is investor behaviour. Specifically, the deeply human tendency to buy enthusiastically and increase investments when markets are rising and everything feels exciting and safe, then sell in panic and move everything to cash when markets fall sharply and everything feels terrifying. This is precisely the opposite of the behaviour that produces wealth. Buying at market highs and selling at market lows is an extremely reliable method for destroying wealth over time. The research on this is unambiguous and has been replicated consistently for decades. The Dalbar Annual Quantitative Analysis of Investor Behaviour Report shows year after year that the actual investment returns individual investors achieve are significantly lower than the returns of the funds they invest in, because they get in and out at emotionally driven wrong times. They invest aggressively after markets have already risen substantially, and the gains are largely priced in. They sell in panic after markets have already fallen, and the worst may be behind them. They wait on the sidelines until they feel confident that markets are safe again, which typically means markets have already recovered and risen back to or above their prior highs. Buy high, sell low, repeat indefinitely until retirement arrives and the savings are far lower than they should be. The correct and proven approach is boring, counterintuitive, and extraordinarily effective. Invest the same fixed amount of money every single month regardless of what the market is doing. Reinvest all dividends automatically, so they compound without any action required from you. Review your portfolio allocation a few times per year, but make no changes based on short-term market movements or news, and do not look at your investment account balance more frequently than necessary. When markets drop dramatically, and they will drop 20%, 30%, even 50% from peak levels at some point during your investing career, probably more than once. Your assigned job is to do absolutely nothing. If you can develop the right mindset about it, you can stay genuinely calm during those drops by understanding that you are buying more shares at lower prices with your regular contributions, and that the recovery and new highs that have followed every historical market drop will likely follow this one as well. The investors who sold everything in March 2020 during the sharpest pandemic-driven market decline locked in massive permanent losses and then watched the market recover completely within months and go on to new highs. The investors who stayed the course and kept contributing were rewarded enormously for their patience and emotional discipline. Section 7. The big decisions. Home and cars. Two of the largest financial decisions that most people make in their lifetimes, sometimes literally the two largest, are whether and when to buy a home and how they choose to handle personal transportation. Both of these decisions have a disproportionately large impact on your long-term financial trajectory because of the sheer dollar amounts involved. Both are also deeply misunderstood by most people, largely because the conventional wisdom surrounding both is oversimplified in ways that lead to costly mistakes. Let us start with the home ownership question. because this is one of the most emotionally loaded financial decisions people face. The conventional wisdom, repeated so often it feels like obvious truth, says renting's throwing money away, while buying a home is always the smart wealth-building move. This is wrong. Not always wrong in every situation for every person. Buying can absolutely be the financially smarter choice under the right specific circumstances, but the renting is throwing money away. Framing is a misleading and often costly oversimplification that has pushed people into financially damaging home purchases for decades. When you buy a home, you are not just paying a mortgage and building equity, you are paying property taxes, which increase over time as assessed values rise. You are paying homeowners insurance, which increases as replacement costs rise. You are paying private mortgage insurance if you put down less than 20% at purchase, which adds to your monthly cost without building any equity for you. You are paying HOA fees if you buy in a development with a homeowners association. And you are responsible for all maintenance and repairs, which historically runs approximately 1 to 2% of the home's total value annually. For a $350,000 home, that maintenance estimate alone is $3,500 to $7,000 per year, or $290 to $580 per month on top of your mortgage payment. You are also paying transaction costs of 2 to 5% of the purchase price when you buy, and typically 5 to 6% in realtor commissions, plus additional closing costs when you eventually sell. Those transaction costs mean home ownership only makes clear financial sense if you stay in the home long enough for the appreciation to meaningfully offset them. The typical financial break-even period between buying and renting a comparable property is somewhere between 5 and 7 years, and it is heavily dependent on your specific local market conditions, the purchase price relative to local rents, and the rate of appreciation in that area. If you are planning to move in 3 years because of career flexibility, relationship changes, family needs, or simply not knowing where you want to plant permanent roots yet, renting and investing the difference in a low-cost index fund is very likely the smarter financial move in most markets. If you are genuinely planning to stay put for 10 or more years, buying typically comes out ahead financially and also provides the stability, control, and sense of permanence that many people value significantly, independent of any financial calculation. The right answer depends on your specific situation, not on a cultural norm that says buying is always better. If you do decide to buy, a few critical financial guidelines. Put down at least 20% of the purchase price to avoid private mortgage insurance and to enter the purchase with immediate equity. Keep your total housing cost and the sum of your mortgage principal and interest, property taxes, and homeowners insurance below 28% of your gross monthly income. This is the traditional housing cost guideline that has stood the test of time as a reasonable benchmark. Get a fixed rate mortgage so your payment remains stable and predictable across the life of the loan, instead of being subject to interest rate changes. And perhaps most importantly, do not let yourself be talked into buying more home than you actually need or can comfortably afford, just because a lender says you technically qualify for a larger loan amount. Banks tell you the maximum they are willing to lend based on their risk calculations. That number is not a recommendation. It is not a target. It is simply the ceiling of what they will approve. Your comfortable payment and your actual financial goals should determine what you spend, not the bank's maximum. Now, transportation. Americans have a deeply complicated and expensive relationship with their vehicles, and it costs them financially in ways that compound dramatically over a lifetime. Transportation is consistently the second largest expense category for American households after housing, averaging well over $12,000 per year, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Expenditure Survey data. That includes the car payment, auto insurance, fuel, registration fees, maintenance, and the implicit depreciation cost of driving a vehicle that is losing value continuously. For most households, this is a genuinely enormous percentage of income, and a meaningful portion of it is optional and avoidable with different choices. Here is the math that should permanently reframe how you think about vehicle purchasing decisions. The average new car payment was approximately $735 per month as of 2024. If instead of making that $735 payment every month, you invested that same $735 in a diversified stock index fund earning a 7% average annual return. After 30 years, you would have approximately $890,000. The car payment that feels completely normal, that almost everyone around you has, is potentially costing you close to $1 million in long-term investment wealth. That is not exaggeration or rhetorical flourish. That is the direct result of the math of compound growth applied to a monthly cash flow difference. Your car decision is a retirement decision. The smarter approach: buy a reliable used vehicle that is 2 to 4 years old with some miles already accumulated on it, so that someone else has paid the steepest initial depreciation. Pay cash if you can possibly manage it, even if that requires saving for a year or two, and driving something older in the meantime. If financing's genuinely necessary, choose the shortest loan term you can handle, and the smallest loan amount that meets your actual transportation needs, not your aspirational preferences. Pay it off ahead of schedule. Then drive that vehicle for as long as it remains safe and mechanically reliable. With proper maintenance, a vehicle from a manufacturer known for reliability can cover 200,000 miles or more. The ongoing maintenance costs of a paid-off vehicle are almost always substantially lower in total than the monthly payments on a financed one, even accounting for the occasional larger repair. Resist the cultural and advertising pressure to upgrade your vehicle every 3 to 4 years. That pressure is marketing, not financial wisdom. Section 8. Retirement. Not taking this seriously is a mistake. Retirement feels impossibly and abstractly distant when you are young, and your daily life is full of immediate, concrete demands on your attention and your money. And then, with a speed that surprises nearly everyone who experiences it, it does not feel distant at all. And the math of retirement is completely, uncomfortably unforgiving. The decisions you make about money in your 20s and 30s have 10 to 20 times more impact on your retirement financial outcome than the decisions you make in your 50s, because of how drastically compound growth amplifies early invested dollars over decades of time. Your future self is being set up or let down right now, today, by decisions you are making or not making. The data on where most Americans currently stand on retirement preparation is genuinely alarming and deserves to be taken seriously. According to the Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances, the median retirement savings balance for Americans aged 55 to 64, people who are within roughly 10 years of traditional retirement age, is approximately $185,000. Using the widely referenced 4% safe withdrawal rate as a planning guideline, $185,000 generates approximately $7,400 per year in retirement income, which works out to about $617 per month. The average Social Security benefit was approximately $1,900 per month as of 2024. That combined total of roughly $2,500 per month is not a financially comfortable retirement for most Americans, particularly given that healthcare costs tend to increase significantly and sometimes dramatically with age, representing one of the largest and most unpredictable expense categories for retirees. The 4% withdrawal rate was developed from research by financial advisor William Bengen in the 1990s and subsequently examined and confirmed in research that became known as the Trinity Study. The principle is that withdrawing 4% of your initial portfolio value in the first year of retirement and adjusting that amount for inflation in subsequent years gives your portfolio a high probability of lasting 30 or more years across nearly all historical market scenarios. It is a guideline with real empirical backing, not an arbitrary number, though its appropriateness depends on your specific situation, time horizon, and investment mix. So how much do you actually need saved? The standard planning estimate is 25 times your expected annual retirement spending, because 25 times your annual spending is exactly the amount that allows you to withdraw 4% in the first year. If you expect to spend $60,000 per year in retirement and anticipate receiving $24,000 annually from Social Security, your investment portfolio needs to generate the remaining $36,000 per year. At a 4% withdrawal rate, covering $36,000 annually requires a total portfolio of $900,000. That is a significant and very real number. It is also completely achievable over a full working career. If you begin early, invest consistently even in modest amounts, and allow compound growth to do its work over decades. The practical path: contribute at least enough to your employer's retirement plan to capture the full employer match. Every dollar of employer match is an immediate 50% to 100% return on that contribution before any market returns are added. Then max out a Roth IRA if your income makes you eligible. Then incrementally increase your retirement plan contributions over time, ideally routing a meaningful portion of every salary increase into retirement savings before it becomes embedded in your spending baseline and feels impossible to give up. This practice of saving a portion of every raise is one of the most powerful and practically painless ways to accelerate retirement savings over a career, because you are not reducing your current standard of living. You are simply redirecting future income growth, rather than allowing all of it to flow into expanded current spending. Try seriously to avoid lifestyle inflation, the extremely common tendency to immediately and fully increase your spending every time your income goes up. When you get a raise, before you allow your spending to absorb it, ask yourself, what percentage of this should I redirect to my future self? Even routing 50% of every raise to retirement savings and keeping 50% for improved current lifestyle is a dramatic improvement over routing 0% to retirement and spending 100% of the increase. Over a career of reasonable income growth, this habit alone can make the difference between struggling in retirement and retiring comfortably. Do not touch your retirement savings early, no matter how pressing the immediate financial situation feels. The penalties for early withdrawal from tax-advantaged retirement accounts, a 10% early withdrawal penalty, plus full ordinary income taxes on the amount taken out, are steep and designed specifically to be painful. Beyond the direct financial cost of the penalties, you permanently lose all the future compound growth that those dollars would have generated over the remaining decades before retirement. People who raid retirement savings to solve short-term financial problems pay an extraordinarily high long-term price for short-term relief. Building and maintaining that emergency fund is precisely and specifically designed to prevent you from ever needing to do this. Section 9. Making it all work. Systems over willpower. You now have the knowledge. The real challenge, and the only remaining challenge really, is turning that knowledge into action that actually sticks and persists over years and decades. Not just for 2 inspired weeks after watching a video that made you feel motivated. And here is the most important and most evidence-backed thing I can tell you about making good financial behavior stick long-term. Do not rely on willpower. Do not rely on motivation. Do not rely on remembering at the right moment or feeling financially disciplined on a given Tuesday. Willpower is a finite, inconsistent, and highly unreliable resource that gets depleted by stress, fatigue, decision fatigue, and the 1,000 small demands of ordinary daily life. And financial stress, crucially, is exactly the state in which your willpower is most depleted and your financial discipline is most critically needed. That is a terrible combination to build your financial future on. Instead, build systems, specifically automated systems that make the right financial behaviors happen by default in the background without requiring any decision, motivation, or memory from you in the moment. The most powerful financial system is one that works correctly even on your worst days, when you are tired and stressed and unmotivated, because it does not need anything from you on those days. It just runs. And that's exactly what happens with YouTube. There is just a little more work at the beginning, but once set, everything goes by itself. And if you want to know how to do it, I can help you in my free community with the link below. Automation is the foundation of everything else. Set up your finances so that the important things happen automatically without your active participation. Retirement contributions should come directly out of your paycheck before it ever hits your checking account. You never see that money in your spendable balance. You never have the option to spend it on something else. It simply goes to work for your future retirement automatically every pay period. Your emergency fund gets an automatic transfer from checking to your dedicated, high-yield savings account on every payday. Your savings for a home down payment, a car fund, a vacation fund, or any other specific goal go to clearly labelled, separate accounts automatically. Your regular bills, utilities, insurance, loan payments get paid automatically, so you never miss a payment and damage your credit score due to simple forgetting. The research on why automation works so powerfully for financial behaviour is clear. When companies automatically enrol new employees in 401k retirement plans rather than requiring active opt-in, Participation rates jump from roughly 50% to approximately 90% or higher. The employees themselves have not changed. Their financial education has not changed. Their motivation has not changed. Only the default has changed. And defaults drive human behavior far more powerfully than most people recognize. Make the defaults in your financial life work in your favor rather than against you. Separate your money physically by its purpose. Keep your everyday spending money in your main checking account where it is easily accessible. Keep your emergency fund in a separate high-yield savings account, ideally at a different institution where it requires a slightly more intentional action to access, keeping it mentally separate from your spending money. Keep your down payment fund, car replacement fund, vacation fund, and any other specific goal savings in clearly labeled dedicated accounts. When money is physically separated and mentally labeled for a specific purpose, the psychological barrier to spending it on something else becomes significantly higher. Most online banks allow you to open multiple savings accounts with custom names at no cost. Take full advantage of this. Review your financial picture regularly but not obsessively. Check your budget once per month to see where you stand compared to your plan, and what, if anything, needs adjustment. Check your overall net worth quarterly to track your trajectory over time. Review your investment accounts a few times per year. 4 times annually is plenty. More frequent checking of investment balances leads directly and reliably to more emotional reactions to short-term market noise, which leads to worse long-term investment decisions. Monthly and quarterly reviews serve a real and important purpose, catching problems early, keeping you accountable to your stated goals, and giving you evidence that your system is working. Daily investment account checking serves essentially no useful purpose and creates measurable anxiety without providing actionable information. Build genuine flexibility into your system from the beginning, because your plan will encounter turbulence. Life is unavoidably messy and unpredictable. Build a small buffer into your monthly budget to absorb minor surprises without requiring emergency fund withdrawals. Have the emergency fund fully stocked and ready for larger, unexpected needs. Know clearly which of your current goals is the highest priority, so that if you genuinely need to temporarily redirect money due to a life circumstance, you can do it intentionally and intelligently, rather than in a reactive panic. A financial system that snaps completely under any pressure is a system that will fail regularly in real life. Design resilience into it from the beginning. Commit to continuous learning about money and personal finance, because this is an area where knowledge genuinely compounds over time, just like money does. Your financial knowledge should grow meaningfully year over year, and your specific strategies should evolve as your life situation changes. What works beautifully when you are 24, single, renting, and debt-free will need significant updating when you are 38, married, with children, carrying a mortgage, and thinking about college savings for your kids. The core principles remain consistent, but the specific implementation needs to evolve. Read one genuinely useful personal finance book per year. As your finances become more complex and the dollar amounts grow larger, consider working with a fee-only financial advisor, meaning specifically one who charges you directly for their time and expertise, and does not earn commissions or kickbacks from the financial products they might recommend to you. The commission-based advisor model creates fundamental conflicts of interest between the advisor's financial incentives and your financial well-being. Fee-only advisors are legally required to act as fiduciaries, meaning they must put your interests first. And finally, and I want you to hear this clearly, because it may be the single most practically impactful thing in this entire video, consciously stop comparing your financial journey to the visible, financial appearances of the people around you. Your neighbour's brand new luxury vehicle is almost certainly financed at a significant interest rate, with payments that will continue for years. Your colleague's premium apartment in a desirable building might be consuming 40 or 45% of their take-home pay. The people around you who project the most visible financial success on the surface are frequently the most financially stressed and fragile underneath that surface. Americans as a culture are remarkably and specifically skilled at projecting wealth while being deeply financially precarious. According to various surveys and Federal Reserve data, a significant percentage of people with household incomes above $100,000 are living paycheck to paycheck because their spending has grown to match or exceed their income at every stage. Income level alone does not determine financial health or financial freedom. What you do with the income is what matters. The person quietly driving a 12-year-old Honda Civic and automatically maxing out their Roth IRA and employer 401k match every single year will retire with dramatically more genuine freedom and financial security than the person leasing a luxury SUV, living in an apartment that costs more than it should, and getting to the end of every month with nothing left over and wondering where it all went. The gap between looking wealthy and actually being wealthy is enormous in this country. Make a conscious, deliberate choice right now, having watched this video and understood the math, to prioritise being wealthy over looking wealthy. The person who gets that choice right will experience the difference profoundly and will eventually have the resources to enjoy both. Let me bring all of this together into a clear, specific, actionable sequence. Because leaving you with a collection of concepts without a clear order of operations would be doing you a disservice. Here is the sequence that works based on the mathematical and behavioural reality of how personal finance actually functions in real life. Step 1. Know your 3 numbers right now: net worth, monthly cash flow, and financial runway. Calculate them this week if you have not already. You cannot navigate intelligently toward a better financial destination from a starting point you do not know with clarity. Step 2. Build a $1,000 starter emergency fund as your very next priority before anything else. Direct every available dollar toward it until it is done. This is your foundational protection against the common financial shocks that derail all other financial progress before it can build any momentum. Step 3. If your employer offers any form of retirement plan with matching contributions, begin contributing at least enough to capture the complete employer match. Do this immediately after Step 2. This is an immediate guaranteed return that no other investment vehicle can replicate. Step 4. Attack high-interest consumer debt aggressively and systematically. Any debt carrying an interest rate above roughly 8 to 10% annually, with credit cards typically being the priority, using either the avalanche or snowball method, whichever you will realistically sustain for the full duration required. Step 5. Expand your emergency fund to cover 3 to 6 full months of your actual monthly expenses. This is what creates genuine financial resilience and eliminates the vulnerability that keeps most people in a permanent cycle of financial fragility. Step 6. Invest consistently and systematically for long-term wealth building. Max your Roth IRA contributions if you are eligible. Increase your 401k contributions beyond the employer match as your income allows. Use low-cost, diversified index funds. Reinvest all dividends automatically. Stay the course through every market downturn without panic selling. Step 7. Pursue your major, medium and long-term life goals. Home ownership when the timing and math genuinely makes sense for your situation. Eliminating remaining lower interest debts, building additional taxable investment wealth, or working toward financial independence ahead of traditional retirement age. All based on your specific priorities, values, and timeline. This sequence is not arbitrary. It reflects what actually works across thousands of real financial situations, documented by researchers, behavioral economists, and financial advisors over many decades of studying what separates people who build lasting financial security from those who struggle despite decent incomes. Not everyone will execute it perfectly every step of the way. Life creates detours and setbacks. But people who broadly follow this sequence, who have emergency protection in place before going all in on investments, who eliminate the most destructive high-interest debt before worrying about fine-tuning their investment allocation, who always capture free employer matching before making any other savings or investment decisions. These people build genuine, lasting financial security over time, not through one brilliant decision, not through luck or exceptional income, through consistently making a series of correct small decisions and then giving those decisions enough time to compound into something remarkable. Here is the concise version of everything we covered today. Know your 3 numbers: net worth, monthly cash flow, financial runway. Set real, specific goals connected to your actual desired life rather than vague aspirations. Build a budget designed around your real behavioral patterns rather than an idealized version of yourself. Create an emergency fund and treat it as a permanent, ongoing feature of your financial life, rather than a one-time achievement. Destroy high-interest debt with a systematic, consistent method, and stick with it. Invest early and consistently in low-cost diversified index funds through tax-advantaged accounts, and actively resist every emotional urge to react to short-term market movements. Think carefully and realistically about your two largest financial decisions, home and car, because the math is more complex and consequential than conventional wisdom suggests. Save deliberately for retirement starting right now, regardless of your current age. Build automated financial systems so that your financial progress happens reliably in the background without depending on motivation or willpower. The gap between you and people who seem to genuinely have money figured out is almost certainly much smaller than it appeared at the start of this video. The knowledge gap, the difference in what you understand about how money works, has just been substantially narrowed. The behavior gap, the distance between knowing what to do and consistently doing it over years and decades, is the real remaining challenge. And that gap closes one decision at a time. Starting today, starting now, starting with the very next financial choice you make. Subscribe so you do not miss what comes next. Just a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for educational purposes only, and any results depend on your own decisions and actions.